The second generation Volvo S60 is a golden moment for the nameplate that was not repeated. Not only are there the regular S60 many knew from the first iteration, but it spins off into the V60, it also becomes a cross country, and for the enthusiast with a family, or perhaps harsher winter climates, a Polestar model arrives so drivers could still enjoy a backroad blast before the school run and dog walking duties. For those that want their Volvo to blend in while parked at a supermarket, but still catch the glance at a car show, the Ocean Race model got a few choice extras to stand it out for those in the know. Throughout the guide I will refer to the car as the S60, however all of what I say here applies to the V60 model unless I single out the wagon variant. The differences are fairly minor, both share a wheelbase to within a millimetre, and while the V60 is 7mm or 3/10 of an inch longer at 4 meters and 63.5 centimeters or 182.5 inches, the longest variant is the S60 long wheelbase model, stretching the car by roughly 7.5 centimeters or 3 inches. The V60 is roughly 70 kilograms or 150 pounds heavier than the S60 in most like-for-like comparisons. However, the plug-in hybrid V60 is the only model to tip the scales at just over 2 tons, making it the heaviest model. The bonus here is space. With the rear seats in place, the V60 has 430 litres or 15.2 cubic feet of luggage space versus 399 litres or 12 cubic feet in the S60. One note for acoustic aficionados though, the sound system in the S60 is considered superior by owners, not because of the speakers, but the isolation of the cargo space, helping dampen exterior noise in the cabin and isolating music to the smaller space. Now under the Volvo S60 is the P3 platform. It's the same as on the XC60 and it's on the XC70 as well. It's the Ford EUCD platform. However, I should stress that while it is used on the Ford Mondeo and Ford S-Max, it is around 50% shared parts. So it's not a wholesale take of the Ford platform just put under the Volvo. Volvo do a lot of their own engineering here as well. However, the advantage of this is that because it has some ubiquitous parts with the Ford products that were higher sellers, if you do need parts as these cars get older, parts supply should be a little bit better and prices shouldn't be too bad either. So a little bit of a bonus there if you're looking at one of these S60s or V60s. And before we move back to the guide, I just want to mention the S60 and V60 Cross Country. These are a little bit different to the regular models. They have the additional cladding and they have raised ground clearance. The advantage of these is if you think the XC70 is a little bit too big for what you need, then these sort of fill that gap there and could be a good option for you. Just be aware that some of the specific details I give for fuel economy a bit later in the guide, they are for the V60 and S60. So if you're going to take those, just take them down a pinch, maybe pay 5-10% less for the cross-country models because they are slightly less efficient due to their poor aero efficiency. Looking at production numbers, it is 2011, 2012 and 2013 that you'll find the most choice on the used market, as they were the dominant sales years. 2014 isn't too far behind, but production halved in 2015 from the peak in 2012. For the V60, these numbers shift slightly, with 2013, 2014 and 2015 the highest, but even 2016 and 2017 are strong sales years, showing that a shift in buying habits to the wagon model. And for the last year of production, the wagon variant was outselling the S60 by 2 to 1, although sales for both models slow as the second generation begins its farewell and Volvo begin marketing the next generation. If the long wheelbase S60 is attractive to you, then sales continue into 2019, but the S60L always is sold in lower numbers, as it was only sold in limited markets. If you would prefer the facelift model, then it will be a 2014 onwards model that you'll have to be looking for. The easiest way to spot a facelift to a pre-facelift model will be from the front, as the headlights and the front bumper are notably different. For many of you, they'll be able to get the 2014 model year vehicle registered towards of the end of 2013 onwards, and with the change of the exterior looks comes additional safety technology that is standard on some trim levels, although available as a pack to specify on any model depending on your home territory. Moving on to safety, and as ever with Volvo, it scored top marks when tested at Euro NCAP, but the rating has now expired. North American IIHS have given the car top marks for cross-testing in 2013. Next up are the common faults, and a reminder that we now have channel memberships open if you would like to join and support the channel, but as ever consider subscribing and liking if you feel the video deserves it. First on the checklist should be the radar cruise control if fitted. This is reported to fail. An easy way to check it is to go on a test drive on a highway for a short while and activate the system. If the car slows down when the car in front does, and then speeds up as they do up to your chosen top speed, it's working. If it loses the car ahead for any reason but that they have gone above your selected top speed, or the system cuts out, then you'll be looking at either a replacement sensor or recalibration, or software reboot. Unfortunately, most of the time it is the former, which is much costlier. If possible, check the rear heated screen works. Owners have reported either partial or complete failure of the heated rear elements on around 8 to 10 year old vehicles. If you can view a car in the rain, then get it into a tight parking space and see if the sensors work correctly. Owners have had issues with the rain interfering with the sensor's ability to tell the proximity correctly, sometimes causing a consistent chime that it is very close to an object, when in fact you've taken yourself off to the open countryside, in Greenland, with the closest obstacle 40 miles away and out to sea and floating. If viewing a car with an automatic transmission, look out for a hard shift when engaging drive. It seems a lot of Volvos have the character of a mild blip through the chassis when the drive is selected, but a noticeable bump or hard select will likely need further inspection before it becomes hard to activate drive. When on a test drive, find some stop-start traffic and check that the parking brake does not automatically engage. This was an annoyance for some owners, and although a known issue for a Volvo specialist to sort, it isn't something that you want to start your ownership with. If you can find some bumpier roads on test drive, then listen out for any knocks or clunks from the suspension. Both the drop links and the front arms will wear a bit faster than some cars, although fortunately these are fairly straightforward to change and shouldn't take too long at a specialist. Any warning of ABS faults should make you ask about the circuit board on the first 2 years of production if a garage can't find an obvious issue elsewhere. Some soldering points have been reported to fail. I will note that as a general rule to have a look over the engine for an oil leak no matter the model or your mechanical knowledge. A general look when buying may just spot something that could become a giant bill a few months later. Next up are the recalls, and a reminder to check out the Miles Driven book if you're enjoying the video. There were 3 recalls in 2010, the first for an electrical short circuit on airbags for chassis ending 000194 to 000701. The second was for a fuel cutoff on the ECM and TCM modules as they were too sensitive, and the third was for a chassis run of 000390 and 014817 to seat stops, allowing the front seats to travel further forward than designed. In 2011 there were 2 recalls, the first for a possible fuel leak and the second for a fuel seepage. The first affected the 2-litre petrol and the second affected the 2-litre petrol turbo and 3.2 engine. There was a single recall in 2012 for airbags on modules built from January to March that year. In 2013 there was just 1 recall again, this time for 2011 cars with a 2.4 diesel engine, as premature wear to the auxiliary belt tensioner was detected. In 2016 there was a recall for a coolant leak on the 2011 to 2015 built cars with a 1.6 turbo petrol engine. In 2019 there were 2 recalls, one for a possible fuel leak on the 2015 to 2016 built cars and another for intake manifolds on 2014 to 2018 cars under code R29939. In 2020 there were 4 recalls. The first was for the intake manifolds again, but this time specific to diesel engines from 2013 to 2018. Then the front seat belts were recalled on select chassis, but the parts delay meant that cars could not be brought to dealers until later that year. Thirdly, an overheating fault was discovered on 2013 to 2018 cars under recalls R10025 and R10026, fitted with a 4-cylinder diesel engine. And finally, another recall for the same overheating issue, but with a wider batch of vehicle chassis applied. Next up are the engines, and because there are a total of 21 variations of engine and engine ancillaries in the S60 across the world, I will try to group together engines together as much as possible, unless a specific fault or variation is worth noting. Let's start with the smallest petrol engines. The smallest option was a 1.6 turbo engine in both the T3 and T4 models, coded B416, and better known in Fords as an EcoBoost, and produced 150 or 180 brake horsepower. A rarer Drive E model with 180 brake horsepower was also made. Fuel economy is officially rated at 47.9 miles per gallon or 5.9 litres per 100 kilometres. The biggest complaint as these engines age is carbon buildup due to their design, but there is a solution to get this removed at a garage that has the right equipment. This engine is built to carry more power than its mates in the S60, and so it is proven generally reliable, with owners now covering high mileage on the original components outside of regular service items. Next is the 2-litre, which again is a turbo engine and coded B4204, fitted to cars badged 2-litre T with 203 brake horsepower, T5 with 240 brake horsepower, and the fuel economy is officially rated at 39.8 miles per gallon or 7.1 litres per 100 kilometres. And note that depending on your market, most owners have found that the Volvo application of this engine has been fairly reliable, although I did find reports of fuel injectors failing and oil leaks around the camshaft seals, but again most owners report positive experiences, and some have now covered 200,000 miles with regular maintenance, although noted that shorter oil services after 100,000 miles or 160,000 kilometres seem to help them reach higher mileage. A bit of a favourite of mine next to the T5 with a B52 engine code, making 251 brake horsepower, although I found mixed reports with some claiming 300 brake horsepower, and since this engine was only offered in limited markets, I'll list both power markers in case it is different where you are. Fuel economy was listed at 30.4 miles per gallon or 9.3 litres per 100 kilometres. As much as these engines are fairly solid, the turbo and intercooler will likely be the first to fail. Note that a known issue for some people is a loss of compression due to thin cylinder walls allowing damage to occur, and unfortunately I say this as someone that has previously experienced it, so if you feel the car's low on power or has smoke from the exhaust, either get a full mechanical check of the engine or walk away unless you can negotiate a price that will give you the funds for a repair. Fortunately though, this problem is far from guaranteed, and many can run these engines to 200,000 miles with good maintenance. After this, there are two different T6 and Polestar models. The year you buy and which market you are in will dictate which one you can get. Starting with the 2-litre turbocharged and supercharged 4-cylinder coded B42 in the T6, it has 302 brake horsepower, badged as either a Drive E front drive car or a Drive E R design, or there is a 362 brake horsepower Polestar model sold for 2017 to 2018. Fuel economy averages at 36.2 miles per gallon or 7.8 litres per 100 kilometres, with turbocharger failure before 100,000 miles and transmission issues on cars that have lived a hard life isn't unheard of, but overall most people have found the engines to be reliable so far. Then there is the T6 and the Polestar with the 3-litre 6-cylinder turbo-coated B63 and making 300 brake horsepower, a less badged R design where it gets 325 brake horsepower, and then the Polestar from 2014 to 2016 with 345 brake horsepower. The official average was 27.7 miles per gallon or 10.2 litres per 100 kilometres, although most owners don't regularly achieve this. The most common faults I could find were excessive oil leaks from the cam cover, but by far and away the biggest concern was the gearbox, which owners reported had cost them high repair bills if they had had an issue. Then there are the diesel engines. Again, starting with the smallest, we have the D416 fitted to the D2. This 1.6 motor makes 115 brake horsepower with an official average of 68.9 miles per gallon or 4.1 litres per 100 kilometres. However, despite its low running costs, I found multiple reports of costly repairs, but like most diesels, I found that most common faults were with the EGR and DPF, but some owners faced larger issues, and while some enjoyed the cheap fuel, others warn potential buyers away from the 1.6 on forums, so if you're looking at one, you want to check for rigorous maintenance and preferably someone that has already spent quite a bit of money keeping the car in top shape. There were also reports of 2012 to 2013 years being better. Then there are the models badged D3 and D4, with two exceptions. These are likely to be the 2-litre diesel coded D42 in power ratings 118, 148, 178, 188 brake horsepower, and with the D5 badge, there is a 2-litre with 221 brake horsepower. Average fuel economy is between 62.8 and 57.6 miles per gallon, or 4.5 to 4.9 litres per 100 kilometres. Again, the emissions equipment seems to be the biggest complaint, although for the first 2 years of production, drivers did report fuel injector issues. Some owners that have run the car to higher mileage also found a problem with the fuel injection system. Another complaint was oil consumption. I couldn't narrow this down to a specific year, but higher mileage drivers were the most common to report this. Finally, there is the 2.4 D52 engine that is a favourite among many Volvo communities, and the most common model with the engine for the majority of markets is the D5, although a D3 and D4 is sold. Power in the D3 is 134 brake horsepower, D4 161 and 188 brake horsepower, and then the D5 has several options, but for most it's either 212 or 221 brake horsepower. Turbo actuators can be problematic, but you should notice this on a test drive. For newer versions, the emissions equipment has been the main complaint, but even earlier models that are not driven far have complaints of blocked diesel particulate filters, so make sure the car drives smoothly and has power throughout the rev range on a test drive. You'll also find this engine badged as either a D5 all-wheel drive or D6 all-wheel drive plug-in hybrid. these are years between 2013 and 2018, power increases to roughly 220 to 302 brake horsepower depending on the exact model, and the vehicle's plug-in hybrid range will have varied now, but originally was around 29 miles. All of these share the 2.4 engine, but have different engine codes of D82, D97 and D87. For most, you may not find this option in your market, but if you do, it can be a good option if you want to have something that can be plug-in hybrid for now and carry you on to the future. However, for most, the non-hybrid versions will still be quite a favourite. Now onto our picks, and for a budget choice, the early 5-cylinder diesel in good condition can be competitively priced and have good longevity, but the 4-cylinder diesel gained popularity among many in this generation, so I wouldn't overlook it. For a high budget purchase, a high specification T6 or the last twin-charged 2-litre Polestar would be a hot pick. As ever, the guides are non-exhaustive for fault, so please add your experience in the comments below to help others, but if you aren't sure about the S60, how about the XC60 or S80 next? And as ever, all the best with your car search.